Zaompo, a small township in Sechul County in Khamkarte, Tibet, is currently resisting against the CCP's brutal military presence and crackdown. Since last month, the Chinese officials have raided Tibetan homes in Zaompo township and arrested 121 Tibetans on the charges of keeping pictures of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama or communicating with Tibetans in exile. Many monks and lay people are currently detained in Sechul County, and so far, only 4 of them were reportedly released. You must remember, this is the same township where a young teenage monk named Tenzin Nyima from Zaompo died in August last year, succumbing to his injuries sustained from beatings and torture in Chinese prison. Chinese authorities detained Tenzin Nyima for allegedly distributing leaflets and shouting slogans calling for Tibet's independence. These constant heavy crackdowns on Tibetan people and tightened surveillance in Tibet tells us that the CCP is extremely insecure of Tibetans' loyalty toward His Holiness the Dalai Lama and its fear of losing control over Tibet. To understand more about the formulation and implementations of the CCP's policies in Tibet, let's first look at the series of the so-called Tibet Work Forum, a kind of closed-door meetings headed by the top Chinese party members and military organs. The forum is chaired by the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, reflecting the significance of the party's policy formulation on Tibet. So far, 7 work forums on Tibet have been held. However, these forums appear to be an irregular reoccurrence.
다 강차당 다 거서를 장차 랑도는 뒤장장 마도 매디 잠바 어다 보고 모자동 마치 뒤진이 등쇼핑 후여방거 항상 등쇼핑 항상 되게 되니 다진 남바디 월성 통해 남바디 주라동하게 제도다 보고 리동 주모 천디 도스 소아래 당보도 니와대요 당보디 가서 거래 후여방거 조종라 뭐지 니와대 등쇼핑 이마다 그러니 마 괜찮을 때니 당 원래 전에 뭐마가 하정은 연차송도 저 후여방거 빼나 그게 되더니 볼라 용의 젠드 가서 지고 용지 잠바다 그런 식으로 보고니 손데 배 같이 그셔야다 배 가서 우리 자나가 정도 마지고 응원이 주아 차샤지 배 천에야 예제 손는 것이 내가 공산당국 볼란데 배 원래 전에 가서 우리 저 공다시고야 된다 차대셔 된다 주어야지 그 항라모성 된다 쳐 어느 수 된다 치천도와 그래서 좀 수치다 배그 배나 보고 변조에 이제 동아 되는 mamanga chua yeje to tabe to boku chidang ge jong gongga yeje to ga zikchung suji de gong mama chi pele ma yong are o da dendra chi je jong oni da ku namba den jo ge che to boku namba di ngoli yi ga yong ge yeje yong ge che to da do su boku li do ju mo chong ji dang bao ni wa do su pe re.
Another important policy decision taken at the first and the second forums was to withdraw Chinese from Tibet and to increase the number of Tibetans in the top leadership positions. To give you a rough idea, the percentage of Tibetan cadres exceeded 50% for the first time in 1981, and by 1986 the figure had increased to 60.3%. And the door to the first phase of negotiation was opened and Tibetans were allowed to come in and go out of Tibet. However, the Lenin policy started to disappear and we witnessed a radical shift in the policy after the third forum.
The unexpected result of the post-Maoist liberalization in Tibet led the CCP to reappraise its policies. Tibet was not only open to the flood of Chinese administrators, experts and private entrepreneurs, but the CCP also announced its intention to undertake 43 large construction projects in the so-called Tibet Autonomous Region at the cost of 470 million yuan in 1985. The Third Work Forum was convened in Beijing from 20 to 23 July 1994. The Propaganda Committee of the Tibetan Autonomous Region Communist Party then summarized the decisions of the Third Work Forum in a document for internal distribution among CCP cadres titled A Golden Bridge Leading into a New Era, publicized for the spirit of the forum by calling Tibetan independence movement as a snake and their attempts to cut off the serpent's head with more stricter restrictions.
The Third Forum unveiled twin policies of development and stability, which became the bedrock of China's Tibet policy till date. Human Rights Watch noted that the Third Forum produced the most fundamental revision of policies on Tibet, and this led to an increase in the number of repressive policies, including the launch of an aggressive vilification campaign against the Dalai Lama. Since the Third Forum, the Chinese government implemented a stricter control on religious practices such as prohibition on display and possession of pictures of the Dalai Lama. It was at the Third Forum the Chinese government changed its perception on the Dalai Lama and started treating him as an antagonistic and a threat to the state's security. The launch of the 8th Tibet program in 1994. Under this program, the Chinese government has been investing huge amount of money in Tibet with the help of assisting provincial level governments, ministries and state-owned enterprises to build infrastructure developments.
Yana Kongba Chambo to Hangu Gwancha Kongla, Hangu Reguri. Yana Garsaware, Tak Hangu did Chata Sonja, Kongba not only Zuri Hangu, Kombaga Rema, Komba Nani Garsaware, Zernana Muchilita, Zerdonjili, Kombaga, Zomoga Tsuni, Tsuma Kongan, Dodochka, Dodochka.
In a report written by Professor Robert Berner of the Tibet Information Network with Human Rights Watch Asia in 1996, details the increased political repression in Tibet after 1994. The drastic change in CCP's policies led to tighter internal security in Tibet, longer sentences for political offenses, increased control over monasteries and nunneries, a demand for declarations of loyalty from thousands of Tibetans, intensified political education in schools, and more detentions. Since the 5th Tibet Work Forum, Beijing has made a decision to include all the Tibetan inhabited areas in the Chinese provinces of Qinghai, Sichuan, Yunnan, and Gansu into a larger framework of Tibet Work Forum, which Tibetans in exile have considered a major shift in China's Tibet policy. The decisions surrounding the policy shift could be attributed to the 2008 protests that spread across the Tibetan plateau.
Tibet has witnessed a whole new level of state surveillance and control since the 5th Forum. The increasing surveillance has been done through highly intrusive social control mechanisms like grid management and doubling household, corralling common Tibetans into the state's extensive surveillance apparatus. These two mechanisms were instituted to enhance the existing social control systems like monastery and village-based cadre systems.
So, La Pumabo, Jubanigan, so Benjotuni Yajetan, then is shortly Bobadi, Chesson, Betty Tanachili, or Donda Jilipe, Genjia. So today.
The 6th Work Forum on Tibet was conducted from 24 to 25th August 2015 under the leadership of the Chinese President Xi Jinping after his election in 2013. And according to French-born author and Tibetologist Mr. Claude RP, in his article published in Rediff, said, in his speech, Xi Jinping emphasized the 10 musts to fully implement the party's strategy of governing Tibet in new era. The objective, he observed, was to build a new socialist modern Tibet that is united, prosperous, civilized, harmonious and beautiful. On the recently held 7 Tibet Work Forum, Tenzin Gyatso wrote, "The 7 Tibet Work Forum was not solely intended for Tibet, rather it was used as a pretext to highlight the geostrategic importance of Tibet in China's foreign policy vis-a-vis India." Apparently, Pema Tile, the vice chairman of the National People's Congress, who has previously served in the various important positions in the so-called Tibetan Autonomous Region, including its deputy party secretary, is the only Tibetan included in the 7 Tibet Work Forum.
자미고 배传着 질리더니 용체 저하rum부체 체메스야티 팀배배지 디체텔라다 가르치고서나 다 스주 칸 잠부 코크쪽부 어떤다고 스주 직별령화 두반이 돈바배 스주 그 보고 리더주마 천지거네 답변아 깨니 로소세한다 슬로고 메냐데나 깨니즈나 자케 포케 이거래 대 스주데 이거래 당외 돈이 가르치고래 다 가서 롱구 가던 지사 종야던 치바치청 그런 거 자나그 그동안 제게 코나 지게 코나에 남아도 포켓 자완이니 담보나 자완이 증가 주고 말이 보고 아르니 게 보 마르그 뭐 타나 보고 사자 통공을 참아 정정조하고 그런 거 전수 대리도 와 어떤 다시 다 간전 보고 나 코쳐 보고 스튜디 마펠레는 거를 다 그거를 때 나중 왜 서지 하고야 돼 하중게 쳐버려서 이나 보기도 좀 말잖아 나말 도중에 동쳐서 지금도 와 즉 당차건라 이 타마근 중리도 가르는 배 청주줄이 배디 청주줄이 쉬라 나로는 잠바 소소 파마고 망라 포케 돈이 레시고 만들고 질이 그 보고 나로도 시작은도
What happens if you add salt to tea? The tea tastes a little salty, but you don't see salt anymore. The salt dissolves in the tea. This apparently is an act of fusion and mingling of Tibetans with Chinese to overcome the possible threat of ethnic separatism, as some Chinese scholars have proposed.
Now the question here is, what does CCP's consecutive Tibet Work Forums mean for Tibetans?
다 텔레라가 게 천지 보라 천어요 말은 때는 잠반 니거는 수주 가래 밴드 라란 가래 도근도 디 보라 유리 근다 치는도 나제 동란 근다 치고도 디 하정 나제 시 레레데 동란지 되네 보고 나한테 고토세 대지야데 하정 게 참벌해서 되지.
The most stunning part for Tibet watchers and analysts alike is lack of resources, including credible policy documents, reliable data, and independent reporting both on the forums as well as on the policy implementation in Tibetan areas. This is because of the fact that Tibet Work Forum meetings had been convened in a closed-door setting and remain shrouded in secrecy. Perhaps these are the reasons why research papers and scholarly articles focusing primarily on the policy implications of the work forums are hard to come by.